Welcome, everyone. It's great to be here with you tonight. I'm here in our design studio in North Boulder. This is where my husband, Joe McGuire, and I do interior design. And tonight's session isn't about design, although it's related on some level. Uh, the aesthetic and energetic work is very interconnected for me, just like the creative and the spiritual. These aspects of myself that have overlapped throughout my life. And that's what I'm excited to talk about and teach about more and more through the webinars and meditations and offerings at dailyflow.com. So some of you I know from my previous website, stillnessdaily.com, and that's where I was teaching for several years about mindfulness practice. And I did that for a few years, and it was really rewarding to connect with people around the basics of meditation practice. And then I found that I was called to go deeper myself, that I was called in my own life to journey deeper through a health crisis. I contracted Lyme disease and had to really journey deeply in order to work on my self-healing. And I had some family circumstances, the passing away of my mother and her illness leading up to that all of which sort of came together around the timing of the last election, and just events in life were prompting me to really dive deep and look at my own real purpose for being here. What was the most important thing that I had to share? And part of that involved a real inner exploration and calling out for deeper guidance. I had a craving for years to connect to spirit in the way that I had experienced at other times in my life, when I was a monk living in retreat especially. And I'll tell a few stories about other times in my life when I had very profound life-altering encounters with the unseen world, with higher guidance, with the energetic world. And that became something that I was craving more and more. And so I'll talk a little bit about some stories around that in my own journey tonight. But really the focus of tonight's webinar, is on energetic balancing meditation. And this is a practice, a technique that I've learned with the help of my guides. One in particular has been very helpful for introducing me to working with the natural elements. And then over time, through working with other guides, I gradually learned how to tune in more deeply to the natural elements and how to work with them in my daily meditation practice. And this is a process that really enhanced my daily meditation. I found that I was needing to ground more deeply, to be more fully in my physical body in order to open more fully to spirit, to higher guidance. And by working with the natural elements of our physical body, our physical being, we can really open to energy and to guidance, to intuition, in a way that is really it is just so profound. It can become such a seamless part of our lives the more that we do this practice. It's not an instantaneous thing, and that's something that I know maybe we all would hope for, that connecting to spirit and to higher guidance would be like a switch that we could just flip on. And maybe for some people it is. For me, my journey with deepening my spiritual connection in life has been a long, gradual process. And yet, through that process, through the teachings that I've received from my Buddhist teachers and from my shamanic teachers, and and from my own spirit guides who I connect with directly more and more. I've learned that there are ways to speed up this process, to clarify this process of connecting to the unseen world. And that is the world of intuition, of spirit, of life force, of consciousness, of God, of whatever term resonates to you. What I've found is that there's this same basic energy and intelligence, and it's very loving and benevolent and wants to arise and work with us no matter what we call it, no matter how we conceive of it. It seems to always be looking for a gap, for a way to connect with us, for a way to relate to us in ways that we understand, in ways that we can relate to. Just recently, I was watching a movie that I hadn't seen in many years, the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, in which she travels to another planet, another world. And this is a movie that came out in the 90s. I don't know if any of you remember it, but it had an impact on me at the time, and I haven't seen it since. And one of the things that is so remarkable about this film is that when she finally goes to this other world and this other planet, and when she arrives there, it looks like this beautiful beach and this very recognizable environment, human, like planet Earth-like environment, except there's this sort of like, flowy energy around. And as she's walking down the beach, she starts to see this extraterrestrial that she, the ones who had sent the information and the plans for building this ship for her to get there to this other world. And as it comes closer, she realizes that it's her father. And the sort of the takeaway was that that these higher life forms that had been beaming this intelligence and consciousness to planet Earth and trying to help humans to evolve, when she finally was able to meet with it, it took the form of her father in order for her to be able to relate to it, in order for her to feel disarmed, in order for her to be able to communicate and connect. And I think it's a beautiful metaphor for how spirit, how source, God, life force energy, how it reaches out to us all the time in forms that we can relate to. So, I know that everyone has their own spiritual journey and background and ways of thinking about spirit or about the unseen world, and there's certain terms that resonate for me and that may or may not resonate for you, and I ask you to hold those terms lightly, because really the actual experience of spiritual connection goes beyond words. That's something that pretty much all spiritual traditions and mystical traditions talk about, that when we connect at the deepest levels, there's a moving beyond words and concepts into pure experience, pure awareness, pure connection beyond our ordinary, subjective or subject and object duality. And so, so to start with tonight, I'd like to just take a moment, just to pause and to connect, just to drop in and set an intention for our time together. We've got about an hour together, and I'd like to be sure to have time to answer some questions, which you should be able to do by chatting those in. And so there's a little chat box on the lower portion of your screen. You can click on that to chat a question to me. And so, so if you at any point during the broadcast, I may or may not see those during the broadcast, but if something comes to you, a question that you have, feel free to chat it in, and I'll try to answer as many of those as I can. And we also just want to, so we want to have time for some question and answer at the end, some time to actually do the practice that I want to share tonight. So when we get to that point, it'd be great if you can be in a space that allows you to just rest in a comfortable posture with your eyes closed and to meditate. I know you may or may not be able to be in such a space, and so if you're listening to this while you're out and about, at least you'll have the recording and you can go back and do the practice in a deeper way at another time. So we'll be doing a little bit of meditation practice, this energy balancing practice. And first I'd like to, before that, tell you more about this practice and how it's come to really help me in my daily meditation, and how I have come to learn about this practice and its ability to open us to higher guidance. So, but first, let's just take a moment to drop in and to connect. We're going to do a very brief version of this energetic balancing practice. So wherever you are, I invite you to simply close your eyes, to take a deep breath or two and relax into your body. Breathing deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth. Dropping into your body. Just noticing what your body feels like right now. And then moving your awareness down into the earth beneath you. Feeling the support of the earth beneath you. Moving your awareness down into the ground, however far below that may be. Just feeling the stability, the firmness, the solidity of the earth element beneath you. Noticing that there's this same physicality, solidity in your own body. Noticing the structure and the support of the earth element within your body. This body that's made up by earth. And then just noticing that this element within your body, beneath you, within all the physical structures around you, this earth element, this solidity, is one element, just resting in awareness of the support, the groundedness, the stability of the earth element. Feeling a sense of appreciation. for this earth element. With the groundedness that it brings. For the stability. And just opening to merging with this element. Being one with this earth element. It's in your body, around you, beneath you. Just being the earth element. Just noticing how helpful it can be to tune into a natural element, an element of our physical being. And for tonight's class, just opening with curiosity to all of the elements, to exploring the natural elements that make up our reality, our physical reality, our day-to-day life. And tuning in a slightly deeper way to these energies, these forces. Opening to what these energies might bring. Holding a vision of greater balance, harmony, flow within the elements, among the elements of our body and our environment. Opening to the idea that this harmony of the elements within us can lead to harmony and balance around us, within our world. Can certainly lead to greater harmony and balance within our minds. And can open us to experience life in a more tuned in, more subtle, more receptive way. We may begin to open to the fullness of life. Not just the physical, but the beyond physical, the metaphysical, the spiritual, energetic, conscious component of our being. And begin to integrate all of these aspects more fully, greater flow in our daily life. So that was a somewhat brief meditation on the earth element. And if you've been getting the daily meditations that I've been sending out through dailyflow.com, I'm sorry, not daily, the weekly meditations that I've been sending out, you have been receiving meditations on these elements. And so you may be already a little bit familiar with what it feels like to connect with these different elements. And tonight I want to talk in a little bit more depth about these practices of connecting with the five elements and help it convey a little bit more what's possible through this connection. It's become quite a profound practice for me, and I'm excited to share about it. So you heard me mention the 5 elements. The second of which is water. The first is earth. And there's sort of a sequence that these elements follow in that I've learned within the Tibetan tradition. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition talks about the 5 elements. Other traditions talk about 4 elements. And there are, of course, different systems. So the system that I'm most familiar with is based on the 5 elements. And these are connected with the first 5 chakras. I won't go into too much detail about the chakras tonight and how those work with the elements, but it's quite profound and quite helpful. So the first element is earth. The second is water. The third is fire. The fourth is air. And the 5th is space. So the element of space is an element that is sometimes not included in other systems, but is a big component in the Tibetan meditation tradition, and probably others. So these 5 elements make up our physical being. They make up our physical reality, and of course, we rarely see or experience them completely in isolation, and they don't really exist in isolation from each other. They are relationships. They are dynamic. They are not something static. And yet they are particular expressions of physical energy that make up our world, make up our physical body and everything that we see and touch and interact with. And so if we are wishing to connect more fully to the spiritual, to the non-physical, it makes sense that we would need to connect first fully to the physical. That it makes sense that the more that we actually open to and connect with our physicality and immerse within and experience our physicality and ground within it, the more we will be able to understand and open to the non-physical, because that's really how everything works in this dualistic reality that we're within. Everything that we experience is understood in terms of opposites. We can't really understand light without understanding dark or experiencing dark. And similarly, we can't really fully experience and know the non-physical without experiencing the physical to some degree. To really understand the nature of the physical, of course, there are very high levels of non-physical, of consciousness that go beyond any duality whatsoever, that go beyond any division of physical and non-physical, that are totally unified. And that's where this practice, and really I believe all spiritual practice can ultimately lead, is to the experience of the one, the totality, the unity that we are. And that unity, when it's experienced directly, has unbelievably profound implications for our life. It's something that the mystics train on experiencing. It's something that, during my years as a Buddhist monk was a primary focus. It's the focus of the Buddhist path, really, is to awaken to the reality of pure awareness, enlightened mind. They call it Buddha mind, Dharmakaya, which is this non-dual state of awareness in which we are not separate from anything and anyone. There's no separate sense of self. There's simply pure consciousness, pure light, and pure love for everything, because there's no resistance, no separation from anything, no judgment, no reason to not love anything, because it's all a part of what we are. So this vision of totality is something that arises throughout, pretty much every spiritual tradition, and is certainly a big part of the shamanic tradition in which I've been training within the last few years. This vision of the source, the light, creator within all. And we get to that experience by first encountering it within ourselves. And so the journey within, that is the spiritual path, the meditative path, requires us to train our mind. It requires us to train and calm our mind, to focus our mind. And that's something I spent quite a few years doing during my time as a monk, the years that I lived in retreat. And perhaps there will be certain stories about that I can share tonight. And so that training of the mind, that focusing and calming of the mind, is something that has immediate benefits in and of itself, and that's something that we're becoming aware of. Our society these days, our world, current culture has become quite fascinated with meditation, with mindfulness. And I think this is a wonderful thing. It's really great that we're learning how to train our mind, how to cultivate our attention. This is something that's so essential. It's such a critical skill. To me, it's long seemed like should just be a skill that kids are taught in school: how to focus, how to direct their mind to whatever they want to direct it to, and how to focus upon it. Ultimately, for as long as they like. That's what we can train the mind to do. And just imagine what kind of students and people we would be if we were trained to do that at a young age. But that's not usually something that's taught, although that's happening more and more. There are kids meditating in schools, and it's become a really successful thing. Beyond any sort of spiritual framework, it's just become a life skill that we're recognizing is extremely helpful for bringing a sense of ease, relaxation, greater mental clarity, physical health, vitality, and on and on. So many incredible benefits that come through meditation. And yet that's just meditation alone. That's just training the mind to focus, to calm and focus the mind is really the very beginning of the spiritual path. It's our basic tool for learning to tune in to what's really present within our being, within our mind, within our heart, and within our environment, within others. By becoming more present through meditation and mindfulness, we start to observe things more clearly, more subtly. We start to tune in to signals, to messages that have been there all along, but that we haven't been able to hear because of the noise of our mind and our distraction, the constant barrage of thoughts, the turbulence of the mind. Creates this sort of stirred up water that is hard to really, it's hard to really see through. A common example that's given is that, that the busy mind is like, if you poured sand into a glass of water and stirred it up, it would just be muddy and thick, and cloudy, you couldn't see through it. That's what the busy, untamed mind is like. And yet when we just sit and watch what's arising and passing in the mind, and we don't keep stirring it up with more thoughts, more problem solving, trying to do more, trying to be more, trying to figure stuff out, trying to plan, or resisting, or obsessing about something from the past, or longing for something in the future. If we allow that to just arise and pass and begin to settle, the silt, the sand, the dirt starts to settle to the bottom, and the true nature of our mind is revealed, becomes more clear. The mind naturally becomes more clear and awake and aware. And so that's what we're doing through meditation. And this is really important, really helpful for allowing us to connect to intuition. Intuition can be very subtle. And of course, at times it's not so subtle. I'm sure many of you have had experiences that were just overwhelmingly clear messages from the other side, you know, to to not get in that car, or to not get on that plane, or to call that person at just that right time, or whatever it may have been. The physical sensations sometimes are very strong and overwhelming and very clear. And yet those tend to be sort of extreme examples. That everyday intuition, which I believe we're all connected to and that we all have the capacity for, is more subtle. um, it's something that we have to be a little more calm, a little more focused, more aware, more clear, more still, in order to receive these signals, these messages. And uh, and so calming the mind is really the first step for being able to tap in and be, in order to be a more intuitive person. And energy balancing practice is really helpful for calming the mind. By energy balancing practice, I refer to working with the energies of the five elements. These elements naturally ground us in our physicality and start to balance the flow of energy in our physicality between these elements that make up our physicality. And just by tuning in to these energies of the natural elements, we become more easily still. It's quite powerful to rely upon and to use these energies. This is something that's very common in the shamanic tradition. The shamans that I've trained with have taught quite a bit about the natural elements, and are really shamanic work. A significant component of it is focused upon creating balance, restoring balance among the elements internally and within our environment, and creating harmony between humans and the environment. This is part of why shamanic practice and training has been so helpful for me as an interior designer, because that's what we're trying to do as designers, is to bring about balance and harmony within an environment. You may or may not be able to see that in our office here, but it actually is a little bit more pulled together than it has been at other times. Sometimes when we're getting very creative, it's quite messy, and right now it's more organized. But that balance and harmony in the environment is something that I really tune into as a designer, and that I tune into energetically as well. And so, these energy balancing practices are very helpful for calming our mind. So I want tonight to share an energy balancing practice that includes all five of the elements. So I've been sending out meditations on each of the individual elements, and if you subscribe to my meditations on dailyflow.com, if you don't already, you'll start receiving those little brief, like 5 or 7 minute meditations on the individual elements. And that way you'll start to get a sense of what the qualities are of the different elements, and what those qualities bring out in you. Tonight I want to do a meditation that combines all five of them together. This is something that I do every day, almost every day, before my meditation practice. I do this for 5 to 10 minutes. Usually, sometimes it's as short as 2 or 3 minutes before I practice. And it's just a way of grounding in my body, balancing my energy, and drawing upon this natural energy and support and intelligence of the five elements to calm my mind and to help my mind be more clear and balanced. And then it makes mindfulness meditation, or whatever type of meditation I do after that, so much easier, because my energy system is balanced and just humming. There's like this nice warm glow, just this it just becomes so much easier just to rest there. My mind isn't as stirred up, and there's more allowance. There's flow. There's warmth. There's the flow of the breath. There's spaciousness. There are these qualities of all of the elements that come together and that create an excellent platform or basis for whatever spiritual or meditative practice we want to build upon that. And in particular, this creates an excellent basis for tuning in to those subtle messages, those subtle impulses of spirit, of our guides, in whatever way we understand them. And so what I find is that we can set an intention around who we want to connect with. And there's a lot of in-depth work that I've done, that I've learned, and that I've done with people around how to open to spiritual connection more deeply. And like I mentioned before, it can be a layered, long-term exploration, because our sort of resistance or unconsciousness of spirit has been a very long-term layered journey as well. And so peeling back those layers can take some time. There can be fears of connecting to spirit, of receiving inner guidance or higher guidance. We can be afraid of what we might hear. Maybe I'll be told to do something that I don't want to do. Will I lose my autonomy? Does it mean I have to do whatever it says? Who is it really? What if I connect to something that's not really, doesn't have good intentions? How do I know what I'm connecting to? And or am I worthy of connecting to it? Sometimes we can have a lot of shame around, the idea of connecting to a higher power, of being fully seen for who we are. And so there can be a lot of reasons why we consciously or unconsciously resist or close down our connection to spirit. A big part of it too, I believe, is that we're simply not taught how to do this in our culture. We grow up in a culture that teaches us that we are physical, material beings in a physical, material world, and that the only thing that's real is the physical and the material, that there may or may not actually be consciousness, that it may just be a byproduct of the brain, and that spirit or God or guides or angels or any of those types of things, that those things are superstitious. They're primitive beliefs, magical beliefs, and that those things don't really exist. What really exists is what's tangible, observable, something that we can look at under a microscope, that we can touch and feel. So that's the world that we live in. That's what we're told, and yet this is so not true. It's so sad. It's so heartbreaking. We can look all around us and look at the devastation caused by this materialist worldview, where we've cut ourselves off from this vast web of intelligence and life force energy and love and guidance and consciousness, collective consciousness, co-creative consciousness. We've cut ourselves off from that, and in the process, we've cut ourselves off from nature. We've cut ourselves off from each other. We've sealed ourselves into these little, physical bodies, and in our homes and our cars and on our devices, we have come to see ourselves as these separate individual beings, and we can see what that's doing to our world. And that's why I believe we've been able to do what we are doing to our world. It's the result of this lie, this illusion of separation. And so, fortunately, it is not real. It's not true that we're separate. We're all completely interconnected to the web of life and intelligence. And that's something that I got to taste and experience very deeply during my pilgrimages in India, during my time in retreat as a monk, um, just walking in the forest and, feeling like I could speak with the trees and the animals and the plants. There were so many magical synchronicities that would arise just through tuning in after many days and months of calming my mind and looking and seeing more clearly and becoming more transparent, more connected to it, dropping that sense of separation and opening to that oneness. I would at times I would, at certain times of the year, I would be dreaming of the whales, and I knew that that was when they were migrating up the coast nearby, just over the ridge. I was near the Pacific Ocean in Big Sur, and I would connect to my teachers and to my guides and to the spirits of the land in a way that became very real to me, and it is real, and that's there's so many more stories that I could share, but I'm noticing the clock ticking, so we need to dive into some practice. And I'm going to be sharing with you more about how we can dive deeper around this topic and around this work. But first, let's do a little bit of practice so that we're sure that we get that in. So, just to finish that circle of thought, there are layers of beliefs and misconceptions that can cause us to experience ourselves as separate, and that can take some time to unwind. But this practice is a great start. The intention of working with the elements to calm our mind, to clarify our mind, and to open to higher guidance in the highest, most pure, loving form possible. That's the intention that I hold for this practice, and that I invite you to hold for this practice, is to simply be open to whatever loving thought, inspiration, impulse might arise in that still place within your mind. It may not happen in this session tonight, but by doing this practice on a regular basis, before your meditation in the morning, using it to strengthen your meditation, and getting still for at least a few minutes. I recommend meditating for at least 15 minutes a day, and having at least a few moments of that stillness, that clear pool in which a certain thought that you never would have thought of otherwise, a certain impulse to call somebody, or memory of somebody, a vision, a creative inspiration, a solution to a problem, an answer to a question. All of these things can arise when we let go of the struggle, let go of the resistance, and just allow the stillness of our true nature to reveal itself. That's when the intelligence of our true nature, our divine nature, begins to reveal itself within us. So let's practice a little bit. I invite you to find a comfortable posture. It can help to sit up straight if you're able to. If you're sitting in a chair, to sit with a straight spine, or if you're lying down, to sit to lie with a straight spine rather than being curled up. But that's not necessary. That can simply help the energy in the body to flow a little more harmoniously and can bring about greater clarity. But what I've found is that the most important thing is to be comfortable and to not be too rigid or formal about this. So simply finding a comfortable posture, whether that's sitting up or lying down. Taking a few deep breaths in through the nostrils and out through the mouth. And then becoming aware, once again, of the earth element within your body. Simply noticing the solidity and the structure within your body. Support of your bones, muscles. And tuning into the support of your seat, of whatever cushion or surface you're sitting or lying upon. Feeling again that support, that structure of the earth element. Moving our awareness down into the ground beneath us, feeling the mass support of our Mother Earth beneath us. Just feeling a sense of appreciation for the earth element. Noticing that the earth element within us, beneath us, around us is one element, earth, and opening to the experience of merging with it, resting as earth for a few breaths. And then tuning into the water element. First, becoming aware of the fluidity inside our body, the flow of blood, water, the fluids throughout our entire body. This water element that makes up the majority of our body. This wetness. Directing our awareness down into the earth beneath us, tuning into the moisture, the water in the earth below. Almost everywhere on this planet has water down deep within the earth if we connect deeply enough. So just tuning into the water, stillness, fluidity beneath you in the earth. Becoming aware of the water in the air around you, in the clouds, the atmosphere, the rain and snow. Just recognizing that The water within us and around us, beneath us, is of one element, one nature, water. Opening to it with a sense of appreciation. Just feeling this energy of flow. And opening to merging with it. Resting as the element of water within and around us for a few breaths. Next, opening our awareness to the element of fire, of warmth, heat, light. Becoming aware of this element within our body, the warmth, the heat given off by our body, generated by our body. Just tuning into this element. Becoming aware of the warmth down deep within the earth, the heat, the fire at the core of the earth. And the heat, the warmth of the sun above that warms our planet to just the right temperature to sustain life. And then noticing the warmth of our field of energy around our body, creating this sphere of golden light around our body. This element of light, of fire, on the subtle level, creating a shield around our body of golden light. Allowing us to connect to the light of the sun, of the divine, opening to this light of higher consciousness. As we rest within our warm golden sphere. Just merging with the fire element, with this sense of great appreciation for its light and warmth, and maintaining the perfect balance, the perfect temperature, perfect amount of light within our golden sphere. And then directing our awareness to the element of air. Noticing the air that's flowing in and out of our nostrils or our mouth. The oxygen that flows throughout our body, carried to our brain. Becoming aware of the oxygen, the air around us flowing over our skin. And the air in the space that we're in. The air that flows all around our neighborhood, our environment, our town. It's expanding further out and just tuning into this element of air that flows around the entire planet. Feeling such appreciation for this element of air. The breath that sustains our life. And opening to the experience of merging again with the element of air. Being one with this element within us, all around us, as it flows in and out. And lastly, becoming aware of the element of space. Just noticing the space within our body. Tuning into the space that our body takes up. And the spaces within our body where all the functions of the body take place. Spaces within the cells. Going deeper into the spaces within the molecules. And the spaces within the atoms. Atoms which are mostly space. And as we tune in deeper and deeper to the space within ourselves, noticing that it's infinite. We occupy infinite space. Just resting in awareness of this vastness and infinity of space within the body. Then becoming aware of the space around the body, expanding our awareness out in all directions and noticing that this space too is infinite. Opening to this element of space with a sense of awe and appreciation. This ground of being in which all things exist and rise and pass. And merging with it, becoming one with the element of space, resting for a few breaths. Just noticing that even the concept of space is hard to fathom. Just dropping whatever image or concept and experiencing this vast space of awareness itself. Merging with it. Listening deeply within this space. Just resting in the vast stillness of our true nature. And so, gradually beginning to come back into the room where you are, moving your fingers and toes, stretching a little bit, opening your eyes. So, this was a tour of the five elements within one practice. And as hopefully you've experienced, it's quite profound practice for balancing and calming our mind. I access such stillness through that practice that I just don't when I'm trying to do it on my own, when I'm just meditating on my thoughts and letting them arise and pass. And there's just such a sense of ease that arises for me through this practice, a powerful stillness that arises through the natural balance and harmony of the energy of my physical being. Hopefully you have experienced that too. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is a profound practice that is so deep, has so many aspects and layers to it. And the aspect of tuning into higher guidance and intuition is something that arises on the basis, again, of this stillness, this clarity, this awareness. By rebalancing our energy, our vehicle becomes more harmonious and more receptive to these harmonious frequencies of higher guidance. The love, the peace, the intelligence of higher guidance is very harmonious, very calming, soothing, bright, loving, peaceful. Those are some of the signs of higher vibration signals. And so we are like a receiver, a radio. And through this practice of balancing our elements, we can tune in more clearly to these higher vibrational, more subtle frequencies. And I have to say, it's one of the most amazing, magical, wonderful things to open to in life. This is really where the magic is. That through this, busy mind of separation and physicality and materiality and consumption and doing, and we have completely cut ourselves off from this ground of being that we are, that is so still and pure, full of love, full of intelligence, full of vision and creative inspiration. This is something that with practice we can learn to access very quickly. We don't have to go through this whole 10, 15-minute practice to access it. We can do this meditation in a much more condensed way, which I'll be sharing with you how to do that. Not tonight, but in the future. And we can also learn how to, on the basis of this energetic balancing, how to shift into it very quickly, how to quickly align our vehicle so that we can tune into those subtle messages when we really need to. We can inquire deeply and listen deeply and hear the guidance that wants to come through for us. And it in every moment wants to come through for us. That's my experience more and more. I can ask for guidance, when we're doing design work on which fabric swatch would be the best fit for this client. And I can be holding two swatches and, really tune in to the energy of them and really feel the signal, the pull, the magnetism, the life force around one versus the other. And it's so interesting to experiment with this tuning mechanism and how it can guide us in life in making decisions and in receiving creative vision, ideas, inspirations that we never would have thought of otherwise. There's so much more to this, and I know we're going over time. I apologize about that. I didn't quite realize how long the meditation was going to take and that I had so much to say beforehand. Tracking time has not been my specialty in this life, but I hope to get better at that. In any case, I do want to open up to some questions. First, I just very briefly want to tell you about the opportunity that I have for diving deeper around this material. I've been putting together a 6-week course on this work of energy balancing meditation. And I haven't taught this before. I've taught different aspects of it to different people, but if you're interested in that, I'll be sending you the link. You can find out more at my website, dailyflow.com/energy. And so you can go there if you want to find out more about the 6-week course. It's because I'm quite new at teaching this, and it's a new course, and I'm offering it it's $150 for this 6-week course. It starts next Sunday. It'll be Sunday evenings, and there will be recordings that you can get if you can't attend live. So you can listen to the recording wherever you are. They'll be available immediately after the sessions. So I invite you to check that out. Let's see if there are any questions. Does anybody I'm going to look at the chat here and see if anybody has, doesn't look like anybody has chatted anything in. Feel free to, let me see if I'm a little bit new also with this conferencing software, using it for webinars. And so I know there's a way to like raise your hand and actually ask a question via audio, but I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. So, so I don't see any messages coming in via chat. But if you do have questions about this practice, feel free to email me. You can email me at Matthew, M-A-T-T-H-E-W, at dailyflow.com. And if you have any questions about the course, I'd be happy to answer those. I'm just excited to share this. It's something that has made such a huge difference in my life. There's so many layers and so much depth to this practice of balancing our energy. I really do believe that the more that we balance our own internal energy, it reflects in the environment around us. I find that in the work that I do in people with their homes and energy clearing and energy balancing in people's homes, that a big part of it is harmonizing my own energy so that I can tune into the imbalances in their space and really tune into what's needed to rebalance their spaces. So there's so many applications to this, so much more that I want to share, but I think we're out of time for tonight. I really appreciate you being here, and I'm going to type the link in case you didn't catch it, dailyflow.com/energy. And so if you're interested in finding out more about the 6-week course, you can click there. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Much love, blessings, and beautiful, balanced energy. Namaste.